Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Hello. I am Tom Colhue, as you might expect, given that you are on my YouTube channel watching a live preview for SmackDown. I'm just going to tweet out that I'm here, make sure people are aware so they can come and join me whenever they so choose. And then I'm going to be right with you. We have a SmackDown preview today. We also have the standard news updates that we tend to have when it comes to this wonderful period of time we're living in and everything that goes on with it. I'm going to quickly get the card up and see if I've missed anything as well, just in case, but I think I've hit all the major plot points at least. And then, as is usually the case, I will be answering any questions you guys have. So if you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments as soon as you get them. Hello, AK, who says, hello, Tom, how are you? I'm very good, thank you. Today is officially my first day as a full-time pro wrestling journalist, and that is a bit scary. I'm not going to lie and say that it's all easy, but we're going to go for it. We're going to see what's happening. Reese on Wrestling saying, that's not Tom Colhue. That's a picture of Tom Colhue. I've never been in the Thunderdome. You can't prove anything. And Anthony says, hello, Tom. Nice to see so many regulars already here. So without further ado, let's get to the news and the information I have going into it. Now, before we immediately jump into it, I will say that as usual, when it comes to live programming, there is no spoiler warning in place because the card is always subject to change. I'm just going to give you the information I have. The WWE announced a fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender for the Universal Championship on tonight's SmackDown, which is a big deal. The champion, of course, being Roman Reigns. So I would say whoever wins this match tonight is very likely to lose at Clash of Champions. The competitors are Baron Corbin, who we've seen have a very long feud with Roman Reigns, Matt Riddle, who is fairly new and fairly high up on the totem pole of babyfaces, Sheamus, who we've seen have a rather large and long feud with Roman Reigns, and Big E, who's currently the big favorite, as it were, just in general, but also for this match. I've been told that he is the overwhelming favorite, 80% Big E, 20% Matt Riddle, which means that essentially the people backstage want Big E to win this, but I can't say for certain that he will win this because there always tends to be last-minute changes. To my knowledge, you can say with certainty 80% chance of Big E, 20% chance of Matt Riddle. Big E, I feel, has been teasing this using media interviews as well. He has mentioned two things that I think really jump out for me. One, that he knows the plan ahead of time when it comes to his intended push. And two, that he and Roman Reigns were direct competitors for the big push that Roman eventually received. I think he's sending a message to us right there. In addition, we know Kofi Kingston is due to return soon, as is Xavier Woods. So admittedly, Xavier Woods will be on Talking Smack for the foreseeable, at least for a little while, but he is training and he is ready to return whenever he so wishes, which means that Big E is likely to return quite quickly to the tag division. He was only supposed to get one pay-per-view match after Payback, originally after SummerSlam, because Payback wasn't really promoted. My concern here, more than anything, and the concern of the people who gave me this information, is that losing to Roman Reigns could be the absolute pinnacle of Big E's push. That for me would be a real shame. I'm going to answer a few questions, see what people are saying, and then go on to my next bit of news. Brian Dalton says, are we getting a new development with Alexa Bliss and The Fiend tonight? There's a bit of news coming on that later on, but I will say yes, that is going to be how things develop. Jermaine Presley says, hi Tom, welcome Jermaine. Anthony says, very excited to hear the Hell in a Cell Survivor Series news. That will be coming up next once I've gone through the questions here. John says, Tom, is it true WWE scrapped the takeover during Survivor Series weekend? There was no takeover planned for this year's Survivor Series weekend. I did report last week that the next planned takeover is in October. That is when it is planned. A large part of this is due to the Survivor Series news, which is coming up next. AK Ray says, why is Britt Baker's return matches not on the main show rather than the pre-show? AEW thoroughly believe that anything on the pre-show should be convincing you to buy the main show. They do not put matches there, in their opinion, because they're not good enough. They put matches there because they are good and will convince you to buy the pay-per-view. I'm not entirely sure of their logic there. I'm not sure I entirely agree with it. But I think the fact that it is going to be a cinematic match is a way of protecting Britt Baker. So it may be that there are concerns that the match just isn't going to be good enough to make the main card. That's just my opinion on that one. Anthony says, is there any concern that AJ tested positive, and have they tracked down who he was in contact with? There is no concern that AJ tested positive because he tested positive a little while ago. This isn't, it's not that he's just tested positive, it's that he had tested positive, and here we are. They have made sure to keep track of the people he has been in contact with. They are taking things seriously at the moment, and they have spoken to people, but AJ Styles is in a bubble at the moment, so they don't believe there is any chance of contagion. AK Ray says, I think Baron winning would be great. Didn't get enough of Roman Baron feud, which lasted for 21 years. I don't think they're going to do it, but I think they're really going to tease that they will do it. I think we're going to see someone take an end of days and at a last minute, someone jumping in from the outside because no one's kicked out at the end of days yet. And I don't think he would do it if someone was likely to do so. So they will really play up to people's fears that Baron Corbin will win. But Baron Corbin, as I've reported previously, Baron Corbin right now has been told he will be doing some favors. He will not be in the top picture for at least the foreseeable. He might get a title shot, but he won't get a chance of actually coming near to it for a while yet. He's there to do favors, do some jobs, and help develop people. Anthony says, what are the details behind Sami Zayn returning after he had a strong stance? That stance hasn't lessened. The situation has changed. I have been reporting on numerous arenas, including here, that Sami Zayn would be the next one to return, and he has. This was similar to Roman's situation, whereby now the situation regarding COVID backstage in WWE is very, very different to what it was. There is much more protection taking place. They are taking it a lot more seriously. People are wearing their masks. And now we have the Thunderdome as well. So Sami Zayn feels confident that working out of the Amway Center with the current situation, he is happy to return. And so here we are. He was one of a few people who was consulted when they went through this concept of the Thunderdome to see how it would work out. John Garner says, are Ruby and Liv beating Shayna and Nia for the tag titles? No. Anthony JCP says, what made Roman change his tune on returning to WWE? Same thing I've just explained there. He was consulted as regards the Thunderdome. There are a lot more security measures, a lot more safety measures. He felt confident returning. Michael Latino says, any news if Elias will return anytime soon? News is that apparently Elias will not be returning anytime soon. It is likely to be nearer the end of the year, nearer the beginning of next year, that he is projected to return. Anthony says, Retribution being Raw exclusive leads me to believe that Vince got tired of the Roman theories. There were no Roman theories until Retribution had already been changed to full-time Raw. So they were already considered to be a Raw full-time faction before Roman Reigns returned. So it's not linked. AK Ray says, how low Braun would go on the card after a spell at top? Upper mid card, he, like Baron Corbin, will be doing a few favors, but more than likely he'll be working with a few people like a Matt Riddle, like a Big E, to help them develop. I think Braun's title reign, his first one, was actually fairly good. I think he will drop down the card a little bit now so that he isn't pushed too hard. Someone who's just detailed as YouTube user says, I think you're doing well, but your background is very dull. Please make your channel interesting and speak with confidence. Appreciate what you're saying there. The background is quite dull. I do appreciate that. This month, I will be moving into my spare bedroom. I will be changing things around and making a proper office space, and things should probably get a lot more exciting there. I do appreciate the feedback, and I do agree with you. But I would say the channel is moderately interesting, but background definitely not so much. And Shikatuara says, possible moves during the draft. Naomi, I feel, will be moving. I suspect we will see maybe Drew McIntyre for Roman Reigns as well. So, and in NXT, I think we may see some moving up. I think Adam Cole is definitely someone who will be moving up sooner rather than later. Anthony says, is it true it was Roman's idea to return heel? Hard to say. Roman has been looking to turn heel for a while now. They finally allowed him to do so. So I can't say that he's been pitching it just this time. It's the same as working with Paul Heyman. They first pitched it back at WrestleMania 31. It is finally now happening. Sean Garner says, do you think the Riot Squad beats Nia and Shayna? As I said previously, no, I don't. Anthony says, are we getting a triple threat with AJ, Jeff, and Sami? Unlikely. AJ Styles, for the moment, is out of the title picture while they do Jeff Hardy against Sami Zayn, and then after that, he may return. Story Tart says, new theme for Roman. There are no plans for a new theme for Roman at this time because they want you to hate his theme so that you'll boo him. I like that you always introduce yourself, Lakshay. I do recognize your name. I was not on the Raw preview due to health issues. I hope you're okay. Hope you didn't forget me. How are you? With Finn versus Cole next week, is it predictable that Finn will win the NXT Championship? I won't say predictable, but I think it's the most likely outcome. And I hope you're okay with your health issues. please do let me know if you need anything. AK says Raw gets Retribution and Underground. Still, SmackDown is a better show. Just shows the roster is stronger. I'm not convinced that the roster is stronger. I think with Orton, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, even Keith Lee now, you've got some top people there, and that includes Asuka, Shayna Baszler doing great stuff right now. But when it comes to SmackDown, the stories are definitely better. When I do the previews, the questions I always get asked: Alexa Bliss and The Fiend, Sasha Banks and Bayley, Roman Reigns and Heyman. Every time. Anthony JCP says there's 4 open spots in the Casino Battle Royal. Who do you see as surprises? Hard to say. I don't think they've signed anyone new. I think we may see people like Matt Cardona, who I don't know if he's already been announced, but he's someone very likely. Again, YouTube user says, can you please talk in? My voice is very thick. I'm not aware that my voice is thick. If anyone else agrees with that, please let me know. But this is a pretty good microphone, and this is genuinely the best I can do. Shikar says Rollins versus Murphy or Rollins versus Keith Lee at Clash of Champions. As it's Clash of Champions, Rollins is expected, if he competes, to compete for a championship. There are a lot of championships in the WWE. The card is only expected to be championship matches. I think we may see either Rollins and Murphy against the Street Profits, or we're going to see Dominic and Rey against the Street Profits, but Rey Mysterio is now injured. So if that was the plan, it is no longer. Rollins versus Murphy, I expect to be at Hell in a Cell, just not in Hell in a Cell. And as regards Keith Lee, I would like to see Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley, but that's just me. Sean Garner says, when does Roman face a Fiend one-on-one? The Fiend is endgame for Roman. It is highly likely that Roman will carry the championship and face a Fiend at WrestleMania, but it will be a big pay-per-view, could well be Royal Rumble as well, depending on how they want to use the Fiend for Mania. Anthony says, I got this bad feeling that Brock versus Roman is happening at Mania and Heyman is swerving Roman and he goes back face. I don't expect that. I know that Dave Meltzer has said that that is under consideration at the moment, but it's just not something I personally expect, especially with the fact that the idea was that Brock would be at SummerSlam, but they couldn't have fans, so they couldn't have Brock. I don't know if we'll have fans for WrestleMania. AK Ray says, will we see Pat McAfee interfere next week to cost Cole or Undisputed can cost Cole? Not sure. I think Adam Cole loses clean to Finn Balor. Anthony says, I'd like to see Clash of Champions feature all NXT titles as well. There are no plans to do that at the moment. Jermaine Presley says, is Mandy Rose moving to Raw and is Peyton Royce in for a huge title push? Mandy Rose is likely to challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship sooner rather than later. I believe Naomi will be the challenger going into Clash of Champions, but after that, at Hell in a Cell, we're likely to see Bayley versus Mandy Rose. Lakshay says, after losing from Drew by roll-up and Lee by powerbomb, what are the chances for Randy to win now against Drew at Night of Champions? Very unlikely. I still believe, and I have been told, that we are going to see at Hell in a Cell, and I'm now going to start my Hell in a Cell news. I believe at Hell in a Cell, and I've been told at Hell in a Cell, we will see Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton as the headline match within Hell in a Cell. Roman Reigns will be competing at the night, but he will not be competing inside a cell. The plan is to have a men's match inside the cell and a women's match inside Hell in a Cell. But while the WWE want a women's match, they unfortunately have had to rewrite a lot of feuds. The feuds have been refreshed, so we're definitely unlikely to see Bayley versus Mandy Rose in a cell. Possibly we'll see Asuka versus Shayna Baszler inside Hell in a Cell. I would love to see that, but it's hard to say right now that that is a long-term plan. We may see a tag match, which I would have no issue with. If we see Shayna and Nia in a tag match inside Hell in a Cell, I think there are a lot of possible options there, but Asuka may need someone on her side. Okay, YouTube user, you're just being a dick now, so I'm just going to put you in timeout. I will happily answer questions from anyone, but if you're just being an idiot, I'm going to kick you out. It's that simple. 5-minute timeout. For Survivor Series, the plan is still very much for it to be Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, as it has been every year since 2016. There may be championship matches, but to my knowledge at the moment, they are testing the water for McIntyre versus Roman versus potentially Finn Balor. That seems most likely for me, because they don't need to pad the card as they did previously. They have plenty of people to do it with. So that is everything I have on Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series at the moment. But do keep an eye on this here channel, because chances are I may get more information in the future. Sean Garner says, who do you think beats Roman for the title? The Fiend. I think the Fiend would win the title from Roman. Anthony says, with no takeover Survivor Series weekend, does that tease NXT involved again? Yes, it does. That does connect with what I've just said there. But NXT, the reason they don't have a takeover is because people worked takeover and Survivor Series last year, and they worked too much. It's that simple. John Garney, but a lot of questions about timing. When do Shayna and Nia lose the tag titles? I have absolutely no idea. I personally believe they will hang on to them for quite a long time. Anthony says Shayna versus Asuka in a cell is fire. Shayna is very experienced with cages. That is why I feel that will be an incredible match, and that's why I feel they will go for it. But with so many feuds being refreshed, it is an idea at the moment. It is not confirmed. Shaquar says, any update on situation of Tessa Blanchard? She's not signed with any company yet. There are talks happening with the WWE, but nobody at the moment has been convinced to sign her. When they are ready, they will formally announce her, and I suspect she will be moving to Raw. Sean Garner says, who does Roman face at Hell in a Cell? I don't know. Possibly Matt Riddle. Lakshay says, it was like Roman used contract signing as cash in for championship. It really was. I can't say that they played that well. It was frustrating to me, but it was supposed to be frustrating to me. So I get what they were going for. And the fact that every other match on the card at Payback had a clean finish meant that the WWE earned the benefit of the doubt for me there. If all the matches had been dodgy finishes like they have been recently, I would have been furious with that finish. But they earned a bit of respect going into it because Payback was an incredibly good pay-per-view. AK Ray says, if there is a fight pit including women, who would be your pick except Shane? Oh, come on. Come on. You can't accept Shane. God damn it. I would put Asuka in it. I think she's an incredibly strong striker. And even though she's not currently part of the company, I would put Sonya Deville. I feel Asuka versus Sonya Deville would be incredible in a pit fight. And I feel Asuka versus Sonya Deville would be incredible in Hell in a Cell. Jermaine Presley says, what is the immediate plans for Sasha Banks? The immediate plans for Sasha Banks is to try and play down the fact that they may end up feuding between Sasha and Bayley. However, and this is the thing, the Sasha Bayley feud might not happen because there are currently considerations as to whether to break Sasha Banks and Bayley up without an actual match by breaking them up in the draft. There are a number of things that have prevented Sasha Banks versus Bayley from happening in the past. And when it comes to spreading them out, there are conversations ongoing. Sasha Banks, when she returned, wanted to be in a tag team with Bayley. That's why they gave her that tag team option. They may decide to keep with it, but ultimately the final decision at this point is kind of down to Sasha Banks. Reese on Wrestling says it will be good to see Roman have a good run with the Universal title after he had to relinquish it so soon after winning last time. I think Roman Reigns will be an incredibly good Universal champion. I think all of the storylines are nicely connected right now. Holistically, I'm very impressed. And I think it's going to be a very good championship reign until there are fans in the audience cheering him, at which point he becomes a failed heel. But that's going to happen anyway. Anthony says, is it me or does it feel like Vince has changed his tune on Shayna? I have never been able to confirm that Vince was negative on Shayna. Never. I do know that Shane McMahon is very high on Shayna Baszler, so he may be in Vince's ear on this one. But when it comes to Shayna Baszler, what we saw at Payback was the Shayna Baszler we saw at Elimination Chamber. Her entire storyline was built around Becky Lynch, and when Becky Lynch left, Shayna had nothing to do. She was always available. She was always ready to go. It just never happened. Anthony says the only way it makes sense if Roman reveals the contract that he doesn't have to defend against Braun or Bray. I wouldn't say it necessarily makes sense that way. I think that may be what he reveals, but there are no automatic rematches anymore, so he doesn't have to defend it against anyone. Also, he's with Paul Heyman, which means chances are he can negotiate his way out of anything. Sean says, when do you see Otis cashing in, and when does Sasha and Bayley breakup happen? I don't know if the Sasha and Bayley breakup will happen. It is likely to happen at the draft if it happens at all. Otis cashing in, I don't know. They've been pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. AK says, is it time to introduce a supernatural woman character? It will shake the division up and will be new for WWE. I don't think they have the person for it. I don't think they have any woman in the divisions who could fit that character style. I don't. So I wouldn't introduce it without having a character who can fit the mold. There are a few people I want to see called up. I want to see Dakota Kai called up. I want to see Rhea Ripley called up. We'll see what happens. Shiktaza says, I still don't think WWE will be able to make the crowd boo Roman Reigns in his current role. My opinion is that once there are fans back, they will cheer Roman because, if anything, this justifies the fan demand to make him a heel. And now that they have made him a heel, they have also made him a face. That's my fault. Anthony says he's an outside-the-box signing. WWE should consider Nicole Savoy. At the moment, WWE are not publicly signing anyone. It is why Rey Mysterio's new contract has not gone ahead as originally planned. Now that he's injured particularly, they will not announce that he has signed a new contract because they will just push it back and act like it was never signed. It is also why Brock Lesnar's contract has lapsed. They are just not willing to pay him at the moment, and the offer that he received, he was not happy with. So when it comes to WWE, they are right now looking to save money. That may also be why it's taking so long to announce Tessa Blanchard. John Garner says, who wins next week, Finn Balor or Adam Cole? I believe Finn Balor will win. That is my prediction. AK Ray says, separating Sasha Bailey without a payoff match is like seeing a great thriller movie without seeing the climax. I would hate it. Everyone would hate it. Everyone has already hated it. It has happened multiple times, but that's part of the consideration. Like Shay says, what's the advantage of having a 60-minute match if there was no result of it? I didn't like this idea. I didn't like that idea. I thought we had a great match, but I didn't like the finish, which is sort of par for the course in WWE recently, except for Payback. So I'm willing to see where they go with this, but I would have liked to see a finish. Noob says, good morning. Good morning to you, Noob. Anthony says, with Mercedes versus Rhea in a cage, I apologize if you can hear the ice cream van. I need to start closing my window before these streams. With Mercedes versus Rhea in a cage and Rumi's Mercedes was in Retribution, could it be Mercedes write-off? Yes, I believe this will be. Mercedes Martinez was part of Retribution on Raw, and I think at this point we will see her moving. It also is a bit of a blow to the Robert Stone brand, but she may be on for a little while longer. Mia Yim was technically written off, but we could still see her every now and then. Noob & Co says, what are your thoughts on Shayna Baszler? One sec, I just have to block someone. Oh, my apologies, I've just blocked the wrong person. I need to work out how to unblock them. Okay. Sorry for the person I accidentally blocked wrongly. I will unblock you as soon as I'm out of stream. Numiko says, what are your thoughts on Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax winning the women's tag team titles at Payback? Shayna should have gone over Asuka in the women's title first. I don't agree with that. I think they needed to get the tag titles off of Sasha Banks and Bayley, and here we are. This is just a situation that they ended up with. It's a confusing situation, but it is what it is, as it were. Anthony says, what if this Retribution angle is just NXT the whole time, at least to Survivor Series? If that were likely, then they wouldn't be exclusive to Raw at this point. John says, Tom, can you tell me how The Fiend, who is supposed to be a terrifying character, is now a babyface? I cannot. But he was never a successful heel. He was supposed to be a heel the whole time, but in reality, everyone was cheering him. So they just had to stop fighting it. Faison says, new gear for Roman. He may wear different gear, but he will still wear plentiful padding. He wears his current gear for medical reasons. He has medical conditions that mean he is at risk if he doesn't wear protective gear. So I would love it if people stopped asking for new gear for Roman. Encouraging them to do that is encouraging them to risk his health. Anthony says, WWE should troll everyone while Heyman and Roman in the ring play Punk's music. That would certainly troll everyone. It would get a lot of national attention. Punk would blow a gasket and get a lot of attention. I think really, though, they're planning to move on. Zoe Michelle says, do you think Shayna should have won at WrestleMania? I do. Actually, I do. I reported before WrestleMania that Becky Lynch would be taking time off. That was always the plan, and she did take time off afterwards. Logically, for me, Shayna should have won at that point and then moved on from there. John Elite says, loved how Apollo paid tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman at Payback. Quite a few people did, including Keith Lee, and I have a lot of respect for the people who did. I like that the WWE is much more open about little things like that being permitted on their airwaves. I really do. Those are all the questions I have at the minute. I will go through the rest of the news I have. So the reason that we have a tag title match booked for tonight's SmackDown, the reason for this is that Sasha Banks and Bayley are just going to be on the one brand now, which means they can't be the draw segment for both shows. They want a moment where essentially they get put over more, and this is a goodbye to SmackDown for the women's titles. It gives Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax something big to do. They weren't able to get them onto the Raw card. They are able to get them on the SmackDown card, and it's a way of reintroducing the fact that the tag titles can go wherever they want. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are likely to be on SmackDown almost every week going forwards. However, when it comes to actual women's tag teams, this could be a goodbye to tag team competition on SmackDown. I think we're more likely to see, for example, Shayna Baszler versus Bayley in a championship feud. I think that's one of the reasons they have the tag titles. So with all the tag team actual women's tag teams on Raw, apart from Sasha and Bayley, this may be a bit of a goodbye to the actual competition for those championships. What I will say is that Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross have not officially broken up, but they are very unlikely to team together in future because of what I will talk about next. Ooh, okay, you made a new account to come in and abuse me. Well, I'm just going to block you again. Well done, you. Anthony says, was ever revealed who booked that god-awful karaoke segment? It was not revealed who actually booked that, but thankfully it's in the rear view window at the moment. Like Shay says, after Roman and Sami Zayn, who will be next big return according to you and when? Hard to say. There aren't that many people who will be getting big returns because there aren't that many people out. Daniel Bryan is likely to be the next big name who returns. AK Ray says, Tony Khan said we would see surprises on Dynamite after All Out. Any predictions? Hard to say. I think it depends on, for example, the Battle Royal winner. I think if they have signed anyone new, we will see at this point. I think they need to stop signing new people for a little while, though, because they have a very packed roster. It may be we get an announcement of the planned second show, which I've been talking about for a while. Anthony says, do you see Roman versus Goldberg at the Rumble? That wouldn't be a bad time to do it. Goldberg does have 2 matches next year, and I think that would be a good way to make sure Roman doesn't take up anyone else at the Royal Rumble. And that would mean, for example, The Fiend could be in the Rumble, but I think we're more likely to see Roman versus The Fiend at the Rumble because The Fiend in the Rumble is just a confusing concept. Shakar says, of all the reports of how highly Rollins rates Murphy, do you think Rollins will put Murphy over at Hell in a Cell? Yes, I do. I believe that is the plan. Faison says, what is your prediction for Randy versus Drew at Night of Champions? Drew McIntyre escapes with his championship. It's not a clean win. That leads them into Hell in a Cell, and I think it will be a lot of brutality and weapons involved at Night of Champions or Clash of Champions, whichever it may be, leading into the Hell in a Cell match. Anthony says, I'm hoping and praying Brock shows up at All Out because wrestling needs some unpredictable things more often. I would be very, 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 very surprised if Brock turns up anywhere other than WWE. As I've reported in Backstage Heat, which is a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/backstage team. Backstage Heat is a flagship show there, and I did reveal exclusively on that Brock is, while a free agent, he is trusted by Vince McMahon not to go anywhere else. And he, as soon as the pandemic clears, will sign a new contract. He will immediately get a new offer. That's what I reported there. There have been other reports, some of which have been claimed as exclusives. They're not. Oh, my mistake. Zoe Michelle says, when do you think Rollins is going to get written off TV? Plan is around November time. I imagine he will compete at Survivor Series, but I think that will be his last appearance. However, he could be written off at Hell in a Cell. Anthony JCP says, as far as surprises for All Out go, Miro is number 1. I wouldn't be too surprised by that. I think that would be a big surprise worth doing. I think he could come in and go to the top of the card. However, people have tended to come in, go to the top of the card and lose. So hopefully they have good storylines if they're bringing people in. Lakshay says, don't you think it was wrong booking of triple threat main event on Raw last week? Seth or Lee would be better than Orton against Drew. There was no plan to have anyone else other than Orton against Drew McIntyre. Keith Lee was a last-minute change to have his match at Payback to try and keep from overdoing McIntyre versus Orton, but McIntyre versus Orton will see us through until November at the least. Keith Lee will be returning favors at that point, but I do strongly suspect we'll see Lee versus Bobby Lashley, and Keith Lee will definitely be in a very good chance of winning that championship. Anthony says, I feel Moxley retains given how weak he looked at the end of Dynamite. I do feel Moxley retains. I think Lance Archer will be his next challenger, and I think Lance Archer has a good chance of winning. But we'll be doing full AEW preview and predictions on Backstage Heat. So that will be tomorrow at 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. EST. Please do follow the Twitch channel over there at twitch.tv/backstage team if you want to see the AEW preview there. Michael Latina says, does NXT move to Tuesdays? I'm just getting into Impact, so it would figure that NXT would be on at the same time. At the moment, the idea of moving NXT is still very much an idea. There are no actual plans at the moment. They are considering some of the possibilities. Okay, I'm going to block someone else. What is it with people today? There are no actual plans to do it at the moment. They are still very much considering it. AK Ray says, do you hate the Saudi show or like the nostalgia and old matches it brings back? I don't watch the Saudi Arabia shows. I don't watch them for a reason. John Elite says, Tom, once the pandemic is over, do you think we'll get the interim NXT Cruiserweight Champion versus Jordan Devlin to find out who the true Cruiserweight champ is? I definitely see that happening. Yes. Story Tart says, are SmackDown and Raw wrestlers going to NXT in the draft? Yes, they definitely are. Anthony says, the most interesting storyline going is the Young Bucks, FTR, Omega, and Hangman. That will be an interesting one. And I do feel we are coming very close to the championships changing hands. I'm just not sure it's going to be FTR who takes them. Zoe Michelle says, do you think Sasha will take Bayley's title, or do you think it'll be someone else at this point? I think it'll be Mandy Rose, personally. A welcome riffing says, is Bianca Belair a good fit for the Hurt Business? No, she is not, and there are no plans to move her into that group. Anthony JCP says, is there any idea why WWE changed plans for Orton winning the title? There was never any plan for Randy Orton to win the title at SummerSlam. It was never actually seriously considered. This was always going to be a long-term feud. So if he does win the championship, it would be either at Clash of Champions or Hell in a Cell. And I don't believe he is going to. There was never any plan to do that. The initial report came out and it was very much rumors after that. Anthony says, is Adam Cole coming up imminently? He's coming up very soon. I wouldn't necessarily say imminently, but he will either be before or during the draft. I think at this point they are saving him for the draft so they can have that big moment. Zoe Michelle says, is Heyman and Roman a definite thing going forward or just playing it by ear? It is a long-term plan to have the two group up and work together. Anthony JCP says, Vince apparently shot down that idea multiple times. I'm not sure what idea you are referring to. If it is Adam Cole, then I don't believe he has done that. If it was Orton winning the championship, then yes, I do believe he did shoot it down. Riffing says, which member of the Shield is doing the best in 2020? Seth Rollins, by all accounts. Seth Rollins has been the best member of the Shield for a long time now. Best reactions and everything. Everything he's done has been incredible. That said, when it comes to long-term, it's been Seth Rollins. Jon Moxley has reached a pinnacle now after quite a down period. Recently, Roman Reigns has taken some time off. So while overall, Seth has got the best part of it for since they debuted. I do feel Jon Moxley at the top right now, but Roman Reigns is definitely creeping up. All three of them doing great things. Noob & Co says, do you think Shayna Baszler will still take the Raw Women's title from Asuka or someone else like Bianca Belair or Peyton Royce? Yes, I do think Shayna Baszler will be the next Raw Women's champion. I think there is very much a top level on the Raw women's side, but I don't think Peyton Royce will struggle to break into it. But when you're coming up against Shayna Baszler, against Nia Jax, against Asuka, you're going to need to be pushed hard. AK Ray says, who's the best commentator in WWE after Maro's departure? I'll miss his voice badly. I do really like Tom Phillips. I genuinely do. I think he's very good at his job. Welcome, Guinness Gamers. Welcome, nice to see you. Riffing says, is Vanessa Bourne part of the Retribution? I did report that she was part of Retribution for the initial batch. I don't know if she has been recently. Story South says, love you. Well, that's nice because I'm getting quite a bit of abuse from random people that I've now blocked, so I appreciate that. Anthony JCP says, I've seen this theory out there that a lot of the stories Dave gets wrong, that Heyman is his source. I cannot even begin to speculate on that one. I do not know what sources Dave Meltzer has. Anthony JCP says, I mean, Vince told NXT no multiple times on changing nights. Fair enough. I have not heard that personally. As I say, it is not written in stone. There is no conclusive plan to do that. It is still very much a concept. AK Ray says, what's the payoff for Demi from Bachelor in the Angel Garza Eric storyline? I'm really not sure. I'm not sure why she is still there, but she is very much still there. So who knows? Riffing says, is Raw Underground already over? No, it's there every single week, every Monday. Michael Latina says, what do you think will happen to Billie Kay? There is a rumor that she is going to focus on other projects. I've been told that by one source, so I cannot confirm it. At this point, though, Peyton Royce does seem to be the one who is likely to get the push. It may not happen immediately that Billie Kay moves on. We may see a feud, but I wouldn't like to see it personally. Shikar says, Io Shirai moving to the main roster anytime soon? Not anytime soon. No, she is planned to be a NXT Women's Champion for quite a while yet. Guinness Gamer says, Tom, do you know anyone for certain that's in Retribution? Nobody knows for certain who is in Retribution. Everyone who is currently wearing the mask of Retribution may not be revealed to be in Retribution. There are quite a few times when they've just grabbed a few people backstage, said, look, can you put a mask on? We need to go out there and do a Retribution thing. Not the easiest thing, but it is what it is. Zoe Michelle says, would you ever see main event players such as Rollins, Lynch, Bailey, etc. head to NXT in the draft, or will be mid-card players only? It will be mid-card players only. Raw and SmackDown are still watched far more than NXT, far more than AEW, far more than Impact, New Japan, far more than any of them. So they need to keep their top stars on those shows to maintain their dominance. When it comes to those names you've mentioned, they will definitely not be leaving for NXT. Faison says, did WWE waste Money in the Bank contract by making Otis the winner? What's next for Otis? There was a clear plan for Otis. However, with no fans, they have pushed it back and pushed it back. I will never say that they wasted it. It was a big moment. It really did make Otis his career. They just need to use him now. Riff Thing says, do you consider Sean Maluta a future world champion and a main eventer? I don't know. I don't know the name, to be honest. So I can't really say. Anthony JCP says, is there a reason why announcers on all brands are saying the name Retribution a lot more? They're just trying to keep you aware of it and keep everyone worried that maybe Retribution will interrupt this segment. They're just trying to keep them in the public eye. Off-topic question from AK Ray. Do I watch cricket? I do not watch cricket, no. I watch football, and by football, I mean football. I know it's called soccer in America, but I mean football. Like Shay says, when people abuse or hate you, it shows you're getting success. We all admire you. Just ignore others. You're the best. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. I know that as I develop, I will get more people dropping into these live shows and throwing abuse at me. I know that's going to happen. I know that there have been comments deleted from several of the live shows I've done on Sportskeeda from a certain previous employee of Sportskeeda. The way I see it, you're just trying to make your name off my name. You can go to hell. Anthony JCP says, if Demi is involved with Retribution, vomiting will occur. Be interesting. I mean, it'd be a swerve. Panther Fan says, Tom, is it possible we get Edge Rollins at Mania next year? Unlikely. I think we are more likely to see the Edge Orton match. It just won't be for any sort of championship. Anthony says, Gable, Gulak, Ali to NXT would be great. I think they've got a lot to offer. I would like to see them get opportunities on the main roster, but if they're not going to get those opportunities, yes, go back to NXT, do some work there. I think they would really help elevate the brand. Shikar says, did you see Rollins moving a SmackDown draft? I do not. For years, my number one draft prediction was always Orton for Rollins, but it never happened. Orton moved to Raw, and really, I don't think Seth Rollins would work on SmackDown anymore. Anthony says, imagine Ali and Balor in a long NXT title program. I would like to imagine that. I would like to imagine that on my own in a dark room because I feel it would be incredibly enjoyable. Guinness Gamer says, stay strong, Tom. You're one of the best out there. Again, very much a big thank you. I really do appreciate that. AK says, what's your take on Eric Young being a big win? Also, X Division and World Division championships changed hands very quickly after Slammiversary. Is it good booking? I'm not sure. I think Eric Young is a big name. He has a lot of history with Impact, but the important thing now is that he starts putting people over, whether they get over in defeat or whether they win the championship from him. They brought him in. He is a good champion to have, but you have to elevate a lot of people who are stuck in upper mid-card and Impact right now. You need to make stars. You really do in order to draw an audience. They need to do more. I don't know if Eric Young is particularly the answer, but he may be the means to the end, as it were. Anthony says, the day Ali wins the world title is going to be a very happy moment. Could not agree more. Nuben Cole says, which women's match will be at WrestleMania 37? I hope Sasha Banks versus Bailey. But at WrestleMania 37, it's hard to say. I do feel that 37 will be a great time to have Mandy Rose defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against a returning Sonya Deville. I am hoping. Anthony says, what would have been better with Garza running is if he had pants on that came off while he was running. He at least has tailwear pants that could do that, but I wouldn't want to push too much, to be honest. Riffing says, did you know that the Leia that faced Moxley at Dynamite is a pro wrestler? He is smart, Mark Sterling. Lawyer. Okay, I would imagine he is a pro wrestler. It does not surprise me at all to know that. I'm not aware of the name, but they would not put an actual lawyer into the ring with Jon Moxley. I can assure you of that. Anthony says the Good Brothers are next Impact Tag Champions. Would be a good call. Once again, you need to make stars, and the Good Brothers are well on the way to being that level. So I think it would be a good call to make them the Tag Champions, but it depends. They have to be putting people over if they get that chance. Zoe Michelle says, would Finn ever come back to the main roster? To my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, Finn Balor is very happy with what he is currently doing on NXT, not using the Demon Pates and just working in NXT. I can't see him returning to the main roster. He was not happy there. He is happy where he is at the moment. That may change in the future, so it's hard to say never, but I don't feel so at the moment. Lakshay says, AJ says he would like to work with Finn even as a tag team, so after draft, maybe we'll get Too Sweet rivalry between former Bullet Club leaders. Maybe. I can't personally see AJ moving to NXT. I think he's too big a name, but it would be fun to see a little bit of time doing that. Maybe there could be him visiting NXT for a while. That'd be exciting to me. Anthony says, will there be any interest in WWE in Taya Valkyrie when her deal expires in December since Morrison is there? Yes, there will be. Yes, there already is. Negotiations have not begun, but there is interest. They may be starting to prepare a package, but it is very easy to essentially say to John Morrison, is Taya Valkyrie interested? AK Ray says, FTR versus Omega Page would be the match of the night, or do you predict otherwise? I'm not sure. I actually have really high hopes for Moxley versus MJF. But once again, when it comes to AEW predictions and a preview, we will be doing that on Backstage Heat, which is tomorrow, twitch.tv/backstage team, 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. EST. Like Shay says, which finisher do you like the most? I really like the End of Days. I think it's really, really cool, and I think he protected it extremely well. For me, End of Days is just a great finisher. Riff Thing says, who should be the next face of NXT since Keith Lee is downgraded to main roster? Don't agree that he's downgraded, but I think Finn Balor is already the face of NXT, even without a championship. Anthony says, Sami Callihan's deal with Impact is up soon if WWE stayed with the hacker angle. I don't believe there is any interest from the WWE in Sami Callihan at this moment. Shiktar says, current favourites to win the Royal Rumble. I don't have any information on that at the moment, but I would love to see Kevin Owens and Sonya Deville. Just picking names at that point. Those aren't predictions. That's just who I would like to see. I don't have any information on favourites at this time. Aleister Black would also be a very good one. Zoe Michelle says, is there any idea for a Charlotte return, or is that still very much unknown? They are already scripting returns. They know roughly when she's going to return, but I don't know when she's going to return. Riff Thing says, should Big E face Roman Reigns at Mania 37? If you came at the beginning of this, Big E is very likely to face Roman Reigns at the Clash of Champions. Anthony says, cleaner Omega returns, calling it now, and he should be the one beating Moxley. I do think Lance Archer has a good chance of beating Moxley. However, Kenny Omega against Moxley is definitely a feud worth returning to. Noob & Co says, I'm excited for Mandy Rose versus returning Sonya Deville for the SmackDown Women's title and for the Raw Women's title. Maybe Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. We might see the Kana persona at WrestleMania 37. We won't see Kana. We won't. We may see them get closer to it, but we'll never see that persona. Faison says, is Edge going to feud with Orton for the WWE Championship when he returns? Any returning date for Edge? Edge is expected to return at the Royal Rumble 2021. There is not any plan for a WWE Championship feud between the two. Anthony says, Sonya wins the Rumble while Mandy is champion. My prediction. It is my prediction as well. As I did mention earlier on, I do believe that is the next big feud for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Riffing says, should AEW sign Kevin Dunn after his contract expires? AEW are very happy with their production quality and their production team at this point in time. I have a little bit of news left to talk about now that I'm slowly running down on questions. For anyone here, please do remember to click like on the video. That does me a service and does me a big favor, gets the word out even more. More people will hopefully follow my YouTube there. So please do remember to click like if you are enjoying this video. The Fiend's future. Now, The Fiend is expected to have his focus be with Alexa Bliss going forwards. There is a long-term storyline planned for that. It was pushed to one side for Roman Reigns, but ultimately The Fiend is not expected to be in the title picture for a little while yet. He is end game, but we will see the story develop with Alexa Bliss. That is the story going forwards. Bray Wyatt is not expected to be back in a WWE ring for a while, not wrestling anyway. He will be working with Alexa Bliss. When it comes to Braun Strowman, he's going to be bumped down the card a little bit, likely to feud with your Matt Riddles, your Big E's going forwards. I do think after we see a Big E versus Roman Reigns feud, we will see a Big E versus Braun Strowman feud, and I think that will be a very good feud. That is all of my news. What have we got left in questions? Anthony says, if Tessa debuts in the Rumble, do they do the AJ Styles thing and introduce her and eliminate her, or does she win? I think she would be eliminated if they introduced her in the Royal Rumble. However, it really depends what the storylines are at that point. If they don't have someone big lined up to face Asuka at WrestleMania, if indeed Asuka is still the champion, they would then be needing to have Tessa Blanchard win if Tessa Blanchard has signed and if she debuts at that time. I do think Charlotte versus Shayna will be our WrestleMania match. AK Ray says, like MJF, is clearly the face of AEW for the next 2 decades. Who could be the face of WWE for years to come? Rhea Ripley, for me, is the next big face of the company. Riv Thing says, should Pac join the Eddie Kingston stable? I don't feel Pac should be part of a stable. I think Pac will be very good on his own. He's a great talker. He's a great wrestler. He don't need no backup. And he's better as a lone wolf for me. AK Ray says, Tyler Bate or Pete Dunne on the main roster, who would you like? I'd like Pete Dunne on the main roster. I think he's an incredible wrestler. Anthony JCP says, do you think Cody is back by Full Gear in November? No, I do not. I think he will be out until around December, maybe next year. He's worked extremely hard. He deserves some time off, but I don't have any inside information on that. Lakshay says he misses the Demon King. When will he return to NXT? I wish it's the viruses we see Fiend versus Demon King. The Demon King, to my knowledge, is not planned for any time in the future at NXT. Again, I have to say card subject to change and all that jazz, because it's very possible he will turn up now at NXT. It may be possible he's seen reports of me saying that and he decides, oh, well, I might try it. It's impossible to predict conclusively. I just know that there have been no plans in the offing, as it were, to see a Demon King Finn Balor in NXT. Riff Thing says, did you know that Edge and Goldberg have wrestled each other in 2003? I did not know that. Guinness Gamers says, Tom, WrestleMania or Double or Nothing this year? I preferred WrestleMania personally. I felt the cinematic matches they did were extremely good, and I feel the wrestling quality, particularly Charlotte versus Rhea, and some new and interesting matchups as well, was just more interesting for me personally. Anthony says, NXT had their face as a brand, but he just got injured. Karrion Kross was expected to dominate NXT for many months, potentially a year, but obviously that has now changed. Panther Fan says, which they give Pentagon Jr. or Phoenix singles pushes? I very much enjoyed their work on Lucha Underground, which I've been watching recently. I'd be very excited to see more from them. Hasn't really happened. Riff Thing says, Bray and Alexa versus Otis and Mandy should happen. I don't feel it will. RH Parvez says, why is AEW flooded with stable and so many tag team matches? Does it annoy you? It does not annoy me personally, but I'm a big New Japan fan where they have 4 factions and a lot of tag matches. So I'm not against it personally. I think they can build stories in that dynamic, but I feel they have a lot of very good tag teams and they don't really use enough of them, or at least use them well enough. Ace Shock, welcome. Says, other than Hero and Henning, who do you think the last 2 are in the Battle Royal? I think Lance Archer will be winning the Battle Royal, so I think he will be in there at least. AK Ray says Otis versus AJ would make Otis a credible Money in the Bank winner. If he wins, yes. If he loses, no. There was a plan to do Otis versus Corbin, with Corbin doing the favor essentially, making Otis look good, but then things changed. Otis became unavailable. Rip Thing says, I think Tessa should join NXT for boosting the ratings. It certainly boosts the ratings. It certainly get people tuning in and asking what the hell, but I don't feel she'll be an NXT pick. Prince says, hello, welcome, Prince. Nice to see you. Welcome. Anthony says, it feels very satisfying as a wrestling fan. All wrestling is doing very good at the same time. I agree. WWE used to be lagging behind storyline-wise, but they've really picked up recently. So with AEW, the way they're going, Impact is getting some new eyes. New Japan, since the change of alignment for Evil, has drawn a lot of attention. Everyone's doing great. Guinness Gamer says, in my opinion, Charlotte versus Rhea was the best actual match in the empty arena era. That is a big statement. I've really enjoyed Sasha Banks versus Asuka and, of course, Bayley versus Asuka. But Charlotte versus Rhea was an incredibly good match. Faison says, should Heyman write promos for Roman? It will help Reigns improve his mic skills. Roman Reigns' mic skills are much improved how they used to be. I don't feel Roman Reigns needs Paul Heyman to speak for him. I just think Paul Heyman will speak to him because storyline-wise, it very much works. Paul Heyman at the minute does not write promos anymore to my knowledge, but he does give a lot of advice. A lot of people come to him asking how they should deliver this. And he's a very good person to have backstage for that reason and many others. Anthony says, do you think AEW teases Wardlow versus MJF when Wardlow stared at the title a long time before handing it to MJF? I have heard this, and I did see a screenshot of this moment. I think Wardlow would be an interesting potential winner of the Battle Royal, purely for that moment. I think this is a good way of breaking them up, as it were. Wardlow does have a high ceiling, to my knowledge, but I would say MJF has a higher one. I don't know, but I feel it would be a good story to tell. Like Shay says, Tommaso go for the North American Championship. Certainly he could. I think Ciampa versus Damian Priest hasn't been done, and it could be a good way to do it. I think Ciampa would put over Damian Priest as well. The North American Championship scene needs to be rebuilt a little bit, but that's why we have people like Bronson Reed getting so much airtime as well. Panther fan says, is Tessa expected to sign with WWE? I get the baggage, but she's one of the best in the world, so I think you take the chance, in my opinion. She is not expected to sign, but negotiations are happening and are currently ongoing. Ace Jock says, who would be the last two mystery entrants in the Battle Royal, since Hero and Hennig are rumored as the first two mystery entrants? Sorry about the run-on sentences. It's fine. You are welcome to ask whatever questions you want, as long as you are polite about it, which you are. So welcome, happy to have your questions. I cannot really speculate on mystery entrants. I haven't been given any information about them. It could be a big number of people. So I won't speculate on this one. I don't know the whole AEW roster either. Anthony says MJF will be splitting from Wardlow soon if he is in the Four Horsemen group. I do believe if there is a Four Horsemen group, MJF needs to be in it, but then so does Cody. Shikar says Seth Rollins basically said the same thing about current time being the golden era for wrestling, and fans just jumped on him hard. Yes, but fans jump on anything, Seth Rollins says. Lakshay says, we saw Roman versus AJ before have great matches. Don't you see after Night of Champions, AJ will go for Roman? I don't, because they are both heels at the moment, but I would like to see it. They did have incredible matches that I revisit quite often. Guinness Gamer says, Tom, have you signed up for or entered the Thunderdome yet? I have not. The reason I haven't is because during Raw, during SmackDown, during pay-per-views, I'm constantly on Twitter and I watch on TV. I can't be doing with the video delay on the Thunderdome, and I won't be particularly vocal, so I'd be cycled out in no time. Anthony says, how has no one picked up the Four Horsemen group has a name already? If you listen to FDR, The Revelation. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Anthony, to be honest. Guinness Gamer says, is most of your sources in WWE? Do you have any in AEW? Most of my sources are in WWE. I have some contact with people in New Japan and very limited contact with people in AEW. I won't go into any more detail than that. But when it comes to sources, as it were, there is a lot of proving oneself, not just from me, proving that I have the integrity to report the news, but also from the sources. For example, in June, just before Ronda Rousey first won the Raw Women's Championship, I was able to report that she would face Sasha Banks at the Royal Rumble the following year. So that's 7 months ahead of time, I was able to report that news. That same person also told me that Ronda Rousey's contract was only 12 months. I reported that, and a lot of other journalists jumped on me and called me a liar. And then after WrestleMania, her 12-month contract expired, and we haven't seen her in a wrestling ring since. So yeah. Jagged says, hi, Tom, I hope you're doing good today. I'm doing good, mate. Thank you very much for asking. Anthony says, I think the books cost Omega and Page. Certainly possible. I wouldn't necessarily say likely, but certainly possible. Shakar says, next challenger for Edge once he is done with Orton, that would be Seth Rollins. Guinness Gamers said, I'd love to see AJ go after Roman. Imagine the real-life promo potential with him and Heyman could be golden. That is a really good shout. I don't feel Roman Reigns even needs to be there for that, and that is the beauty of this. Ace Shock says FDR means Fear the Revelation, who's in the Tully promo. Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be part of a Four Horsemen. I have mentioned previously, if there's going to be a Four Horsemen, my hope is that what we're going to see is FDR, MJF, and Cody Rhodes. I think that is a Four Horsemen to be proud of. Anthony says FDR has been saying Fear the Revelation in front of the 4 sign. Okay, fair enough. Haven't spotted that myself, but I don't watch AEW as religiously as, for example, WWE. I'd like to, but I do have to sleep sometimes, and I don't watch NXT that religiously either. Riffing says, are Curtis Axel and Cassius Ono joining AEW? To my knowledge, they are not. Zoe Michelle says, do you think we'll ever see a fatal 4-way, 4 horsewomen match at a WrestleMania? Honestly, I don't, because they're so involved in storylines and they very much have their own matches. I would love to see it, but I think they missed the boat. Like Shay says, match of the year until now include all AEW, WWE, Impact, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ooh. There's been a lot of really good New Japan matches. I liked Hiromu Okada, for example, and I like everything Minoru Suzuki does. When it comes to AEW, they've delivered on pretty much everything they tried to do. Jon Moxley's really impressed, and their tag matches, as you might expect, are very high quality. Impact, I haven't really seen that much of. I know they deliver high quality in-ring action, but when it comes to match of the year, I may go with the Men's Royal Rumble. I think it was extremely well booked. Brock Lesnar played his part perfectly. Hard to say. Jagged says, now that you're talking about Ronda, are there any plans for her comeback? She was, at the beginning of this year, she was at the Performance Center to negotiate a potential new contract. It did not go as smoothly as it could have gone. They were still in negotiations, but they check in regularly. WWE are in constant contact with Ronda Rousey about a potential return, but they will not do that while there is a pandemic ongoing, and they will not do that while they are trying to be seen to save money. Guinness Gamer says, you, Alex McCarthy, and SRS, best wrestling journalist to follow. High praise, high esteem. Thank you very much for saying that. I do very much appreciate it. I'm a big fan of Alex McCarthy, particularly. I've worked with him in the past, and I've met him. Great guy. Jagger says, is it true that Drew will drop the title at Clash of Champions? It's a rumor. There is no guarantee of that happening. Ace Shock says, do you see Hangman as a loner character like the Dusty Rhodes to the FTR's Horseman? Hard to say. I don't know what's next for Hangman Page. That's exciting for me. Riffing says, is Twitter more popular for wrestling fans than Facebook? It is not. Facebook is still a much stronger social media platform than Twitter, but Twitter has a lot more. It's got less users, but it's got more fast-paced activity. Lakshay says, your favorite Paul Heyman guy? Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar is an incredibly good pro wrestler. Anthony JCP says, in the back of my head, Tully Blanchard involved in AEW. I wouldn't rule out Tessa there. I wouldn't rule out Tessa there. However, there is no guarantee either way of where she will sign, or in fact, if she chooses to sign, she may take some time off. Anthony JCP says, Bucks versus Omega and Page, hands down. I'm looking forward to that match when we see it. I believe we've already seen it once, but they delivered then and they'll deliver again. Ace Shock says, do you think Alexa may be the first Paul Heyman girl, or if it is, would it be Tessa? No, I think if there is a Paul Heyman girl to be had, Sonya Deville would be the one for me. But there are a number of other people who could fit the bill for that. Maybe even Lacey Evans, to be fair. Zoe Michelle says, is it likely we'll see Tessa appear in WWE? We're getting a lot of questions about this. I think there is a higher chance of Tessa Blanchard signing at WWE than anywhere else. I'm aware and have reported that there are people within the WWE chewing Vince's ear off about it. Anthony JCP says something I do want to say. He says, R.I.P. Casey Michael. Yes, I didn't have the luck, as it were, of working with Casey at any point about anything, but that is far too young to go, and I know how much he offered to women's wrestling in the world. So rest in peace, Casey. It is a great shame. Ace Shock says, would you do a collab with SRS? I've never been offered the opportunity to work with SRS. He only very recently followed me and he does not report any of my work. So at this point, we simply don't have any connection to do that. Guinness Gamer says, who's your favorite wrestler in these four? WWE, NXT, AEW, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. In WWE, my favorite wrestler at the moment, it's long been Seth Rollins and like AJ Styles. I just like the style that they use. With WWE, I'd have to go Rhea Ripley. Oh, no, sorry, you've got NXT separately. Okay, with WWE, I'd probably go Bayley right now, to be honest. I really like what Bayley is doing. NXT, I'd go Rhea Ripley, hands down. AW, MJF. For me, MJF is very much it for me. And New Japan Pro Wrestling, it has always been the same. Toru Yano. Please don't ask me why. Riffing says, are the new Four Horsemen FTR, Sean Spears and Adam Page? No idea. Faison says, is The Fiend and Braun going to continue their feud? And what's next for The Fiend and Alexa? The Fiend and Alexa will continue to develop their storyline. Braun Strowman will work independently from them at this point. Panther Fan says, if you could book 3 AEW versus WWE matches, hypothetically, what would it be? Definitely Seth versus Kenny. Definitely. Hands down. I'd like to do Moxley versus Roman. Particularly Roman as he is now. And then probably Shida versus Asuka. Or Rio versus Asuka. Riffing says, was Omega in Thunderdome real or fake? It was fake. It was a screenshot from Being the Elite. Ace Shock says Sonya Deville would be a great idea. I can wholeheartedly agree. Anthony says, what's to say that Tessa isn't in the Battle Royal? She has been facing men. Literally nothing to say that. However, AEW has not done much intergender wrestling at the moment. Ace Shock says, will PAC be at All Out? There are no plans at the moment for PAC to be at All Out because of a lack of travel availability. But it's not impossible, as it were. Akira says 2 times in a week, 1 hour market shows how great you were doing. I can only go for this long because of the amount of questions I'm getting. I have sort of hit a new peak, as it were, for people joining me on these streams, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I do hope you'll join me at twitch.tv/backstage team tomorrow, but if not, Sunday I will be doing another stream. I'm very happy to get as much attention as I do. I'm very grateful that people are so happy to support me. I really am. So thank you, AK, and thank you to everyone who's asking a question, everyone who's clicked like, and everyone who's even watched just for 10 seconds. Ace Shock says, did you buy his DVDs? Not yet, but when it comes to New Japan, they really know how to monetize and how to merchandise. So I may end up buying a lot of Toriano merchandise. Riffing says, is Jinder Mahal a babyface now? He's still injured, due to return sooner rather than later, to my knowledge, probably to feud with Drew McIntyre, but he will be sort of in the middle. Anthony says, sad to see Sonya have to step away while she's in the middle of becoming a massive star. I wholeheartedly agree with you. This is a push of her life. It's a real shame she's not there to get it, but an idiot did a stupid thing that they should never have done, and she has to go and sort that out. She posted a picture on Twitter recently where she's looking happy. I'm really happy to see that. Brian Doll says, you said Alexa and Bray are writing their story together. They are not solely writing the story. A lot of people are involved in the writing of it, but they are both heavily involved in it as well. Like Jay says, which wrestling company has the best tag teams, wins, and male superstars according to you? For me, AEW is best tag team and WWE is best male and female superstar. I pretty much agree with everything you've said there, but I would say that NXT has the best female superstar for me personally, though I am very happy with like the top 3 on WWE proper. There is a lot of talent in the women's divisions, but I think when it comes to male superstars, yes, WWE does have the edge. But if they move a few people out of the tag division in AEW, that could change very quickly. A says Mox versus Reigns would be fantastic, especially now. I agree. Riffing says Sonya should change her ring name when she returns. If she wants to change her ring name, she is welcome to do that. Guinness Gamers says, I fantasy booked this since WWE announced Mania Hollywood. What do you think of Roman versus The Rock with his career on the line? Even better now with Roman as a heel. Could happen. It depends on what The Rock is doing at the time and his insurance level. If we are still in pandemic, I can definitely see that happening. Anthony wants to see Daniel Bryan versus Omega. That would be a banger. RH Parvez says, should Keith Lee have started in the US title picture before going against Lashley, then move up the card? I'm happy that Keith Lee got the big moment that he did. I think Keith Lee versus Lashley is a long-term plan that they're going to go for. Shiktar says, Rollins or Kenny, can't choose both, then I choose Seth Rollins. He's by far the bigger name at the moment, even though Kenny is bigger in the gaming community. Anthony says Seth Rollins versus MJF. Heel versus heel. I'm not there for it. Jagger says, is Matt Riddle going to be in the Universal title picture? He will eventually. He will get a shot against Roman Reigns. As I mentioned earlier on, there's about an 80% chance of it being Big E, 20% chance of it being Matt Riddle. He could get his chance tonight. He's definitely going to be in the title picture. He's not going to win the championship, and he'll be there very briefly. Like Shay says, with Roman and Sami, maybe Jimmy and Jey Uso are next to return. I apologize to Jimmy and Jey Uso in that I'm not sure who is who in regards that I don't know who's injured. I believe Jimmy is injured. I believe it's Jimmy who's injured, and he will be out for a while yet. They are not out because of COVID. They're out because of injury, and Jay is still there. Riffing says, why guys like Cena, Orton, Batista, Triple H, Reigns, Lesnar, and Taker are using the WWE wrestling style? Because they are WWE wrestlers. Ace Shock says, Miz versus MJF. Good God, that would be incredible. I would never have them wrestle. I would just have them talk the entire time. Guinness Gamer says, no names, of course, but do you ever receive information directly from wrestlers in WWE? Yes, I do. Panther Fan says, Phoenix versus AJ would be awesome if it was ever possible. I would love it to be possible. Ace Shock, thank you, confirming that Jimmy is the one who is injured. Lakshay says, why do you differ WWE and NXT? WWE includes Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I've actually spoken to Triple H about this after NXT UK Takeover Cardiff, I asked him the question about NXT and how it is developmental, and he was saying that it was a full brand in its own right, but Triple H considers NXT to be separate from Raw and SmackDown. Triple H considers it to be Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. NXT includes NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live. That is why I consider them separate. H-Shock says MLW is returning soon. Indeed, it is. I have gone more than an hour. I am out of questions. I am going to call it there. Thank you so much to everyone who joined me here. I will answer that one last question. Thank you to everyone who has joined me here. Please do remember to click like on the. Okay, I'll answer two more questions, but that is it. Guinness Gamer says, do you think Cena will win number 17 and break the record? No, I do not. He does not wish to break the record of Ric Flair. I think the most likely person to break that record will be Charlotte Flair. Are Keith and Riddle the future faces of Raw and SmackDown? Yes, but only briefly. Thank you, Ace. So I'm saying goodbye. If you haven't liked the video, please remember to do so. Thank you to everyone who's watched, however long you watched. It's all about watch time for me. So even having this on in the background does me a great favor. So thank you very much. Thank you. Everyone has been nice, especially when I got a little bit of abuse early on, but they are all blocked now. I will unblock you if you are watching Sean Garner. I do apologize. I hit the wrong person because there's a constant moving chat. I apologize. I will unblock you as soon as. So thank you to everyone who has joined me. If you would like to join me on twitch.tv/backstage team for an all-out preview tomorrow, that is 11 o'clock UK time or 6 o'clock EST. And then if you do not want to do that, by all means, join me on Sunday, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. EST. You will see me right here talking wrestling. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next time. And everyone stay safe and have a good day. If you can still see me, there is apparently an issue with the